All right, a pivot here because the Epstein files release that occurred over the weekend was a really big, and I want to give you a couple of takes on it. And also, I'm going to do my best to do a podcast with Mike Benz, who's a real savant on the Epstein stuff this week, and he's always a font of information. So make sure to subscribe to all my feeds: YouTube, Rumble, Spotify, Apple, wherever you get your podcasts. I'm creating 3 original podcasts every week. A lot of them are interviews with experts that I don't think fit neatly into the live talk radio show clock. And so I'll try to get into it deep with Mike Benz. But let me give you a few points to know about from your vantage point. 3 million new pages. So a lot of pages, 2,000 videos, 180,000 new images, all released. So this volume of content is so big that it's very hard to keep an eye on what's important, what's not important. It's a flooding the zone approach. Here is what I can share is from my perspective, the most important thing that I saw in it was a specific quote from one of the emails from Epstein. I have met some very bad people, none as bad as Trump, not one decent cell in his body. Jeffrey Epstein, who may or may not be the literal devil, said the worst guy he ever met is Trump. So if this is not the biggest W for Donald Trump, I can't tell you what is. It is a dream quote for Trump. And I got to be frank, I don't understand why it's not being played up more. It's maybe that's what I'm here for, to point that out. But is that not the dream? The most evil guy on earth that everyone agrees is evil says that Trump is the worst guy? Really good. So that's a good takeaway for President Trump. I'm trying to wrap Musk up in all of this. He discussed visiting Epstein Island and coordinated possible meetings, but that didn't go very far. Probably positive for Musk. I'll tell you one thing that is really big is in the UK, a guy named Peter Mandelson, who had payouts from Epstein's account, and he's incredibly well networked within labor politics. So he was very much involved with first of all, the Keir Starmer government is in total damage control mode. He worked for the Labor Prime Minister, Gordon Brown, who was Prime Minister from 2007, 2010. And he was the business secretary there and was very networked. And so anyone who is remotely involved with that, this could stick to them. And so this is one of the big takeaways, and I won't dwell too much on UK politics on the show that we do quite a bit at Breitbart News, but it also implicates this guy, Morgan McSweeney, who's the most powerful unelected person in the UK, who was proliferally involved, particularly with Mandelson as a close consort of his. He was central to making Mandelson the British ambassador to DC. And McSweeney is someone who specifically led boycotts against Breitbart News, where they tried to get us cut out of Europe. They tried to get our businesses cut, any European-tied business, try to make it almost illegal to support Breitbart News. And this guy, Morgan McSweeney, who is the single most powerful unelected person in the UK, tied in with Mandelson, who's tied in with Epstein. And so this potentially could stick to McSweeney, which would be a big positive for free speech on the planet, because McSweeney is one of the fiercest enemies of Breitbart News imaginable and could be implicated here. Other things from the Epstein file that I caught. The Peter Attia, who is a popular podcaster and a medical doctor who does help a lot of people, medical related things. He wrote a book called Outlive, which was a massive bestseller. It's a perennial New York Times bestseller just about every week. And he, I think, has helped a lot of people with his medical advice. And he just got hired by CBS News under the new Barry Weiss regime. And he mentioned 1,700 times in the latest Trove. And some of the stuff it's terrible look. It's not admitting any crimes. It's not implicating him in any sort of, pedophilia or anything like that. There's nothing that direct, but he says some things that are pretty indefensible. And it could be a shame because he does a lot of good for a lot of people. But if he is wrapped up in this at the level it looks like, then he's going to get massively canceled. And that's probably a net negative for society in general. But, if he's a bad guy, there's going to be consequences. The Clintons are going to testify. Finally, that's big. Reid Hoffman, the #1 Democrat bundler, is implicated. Some more, that's big. So we got to put the pressure on, but it's so much information, so hard to go through it all. But we'll do our best here in the Marlow Show and in Breitbart News.